start out by going around the room and introducing ourselves.
Dawn Urban, HR Director.
Justin Lewis, Local 425.
Ben Goodrow, Local 425.
Derek Matakowski, Local 425.
Whoops, sorry. Shane Blazer, City Council.
Joe Terry, Director of Public Works.
Joe Zerflo, Alderperson.
Sue Shell, City Attorney.
Steve Coth, Alderperson. All right, the first item we have is review, consider an increase for wastewater on-call pay. This agenda item was held out at the 9/18 council meeting.
Great, so, and I'm gonna let Joe speak to this. So basically this was held out, I'm not sure, I was not at that meeting, but I think there was some confusion as to pay and how it would be paid.
Right.
I guess I need to start off by saying we need to ensure that we are paying for all hours worked.
Correct.
For state and federal wage and hour laws, which we would. The $30 is really, the on-call pay is to say, here's a tablet, you need to check it. You know, alarms are what, 30 seconds, a minute, maybe I check it, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If I check it and it's not okay and I need to log in, then that's time worked.
Right.
Then if they have 40 hours in already, it's time and a half, to the smallest increment. If they work 10 minutes, they get paid for 15 minutes. If they work 25 minutes, they get paid for half an hour.
Right.
So I just wanted to clarify that. I think there was confusion.
There were a few things, and so I prepared this. I do want to go through it just so that you know, anyone else that might be watching has the opportunity. So I'll go through this fairly quickly. The September Common Council meeting, there's some requests for additional information and clarification relating to the proposed labor policy change to increase wastewater operator on-call compensation from $20 a day to $30 a day. According to labor policy and long-term practice, certain staff, including wastewater operators, earn pay rates determined by their job responsibilities when they're performing work for the city. Certain staff members, including wastewater operators, receive an additional call time stipend when they physically report to a city facility when called into unscheduled work. If a staff member does not physically need to report to a city facility, they do not receive the additional call time pay above their regular pay. Wastewater treatment plant operates, but is not staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When no one is physically at the plant, an operator is assigned to be on call to respond to emergencies. The on-call operator is currently compensated $20 per day to be available and respond as needed. We're requesting that this be changed to $30 a day. As technology has improved, operators are now able to and are expected to acknowledge and perform some diagnostics and make some corrective adjustments using proprietary applications that allow access to the wastewater SCADA system remotely, off-site, with cell phones or tablets. These operators are expected to make their own decision whether they need to report to the plant or not, depending on the situation. It's been estimated that the technology will reduce the number of times staff will need to physically report to the plant by about 30%, and will save the utility approximately $6,383.52 per year in call time pay that would have been paid in addition to an employee's hourly wage. Because additional troubleshooting and technical skills are necessary for the on-call operator to perform, wastewater superintendent and I have recommended the on-call daily pay be increased from $20 to $30 per day. For a typical 7-day week, the on-call operator take-home pay will increase from $140 to $210 per week when they're on call. Operators are currently paid at their hourly rate or overtime for hours over 40 per week for any work performed while responding to alarms, including if the work is from the use of a remote device. Consistent with policy, operators are paid in a minimum of 15-minute increments. As an example, like Dawn has stated, if an alarm is activated and the operator reviews and determines the plant can operate without sacrificing treatment or equipment until normal work hours, and the evaluation and cancellation of the alarm takes 5 minutes, the operator will be paid 15 minutes of hourly rate or overtime pay. The $30 stipend is consistent to other public works frontline supervisors and is estimated to cost the utility $6,350 per year. The net effect is an expected savings of about $2,700 per year to the utility versus not using the modern technology. On-call operators will have more time to spend away from work, and the amount of time between the occurrence of an alarm and the time troubleshooting and resolving alarm conditions that take place can be reduced. The staff and supervisors support this proposal to revise the policy, and I ask the Human Resources Committee to refer to the Common Council by a motion to approve.
discussion? Joe?
Yeah, I think this got way more confusing at the last meeting than it needed to. But it didn't dawn on me till the end. Basically, all we're doing is voting to increase the on-call pay, and kind of all the peripherals are just consistent with that. Okay.
Shane?
I agree, but before, when the call came in, they had to go to the plant to respond. So they couldn't on the tablet. So they're losing a 2-hour call-in time pay plus time worked. So it's more than just going from 20 to 30.
But we're not approving this system, I guess is kind of my point, because they can put this in place anyway.
It is in place now.
And just keep it at the $20. That was kind of my question at the end of the last meeting. I think
I
that's.
see what you mean, yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong on that. Or,
Don't we have, how many salaried people are able to operate this laptop? Or do we have operators on every day on call?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, that operator's on call for the whole week.
okay. That's the other question. I wasn't sure how that worked.
Yeah, it's a 7-day on-call period. You know, when there's a situation, there may be some changes in how we operate after hours when isn't someone, you know, it's not, it doesn't pertain exactly to this, but the use of that equipment, you know, the superintendent may request and set some additional hours, some additional overtime hours for staff to check on a check-in basis, because we can potentially save a lot of money in polymer costs and things like that if, you know, after hours when there's no one at the plant, if it's checked on a periodic basis and something's caught that hasn't triggered an alarm, it's not a high-level alarm, low-level alarm, you know, failure of equipment, just process control. You know, so the use of these devices is really important to managing the operation of the facility. So we're using those devices now. The staff is happy to use them, and this, you know, we met with staff to make sure that, you know, everybody's on the same page. They don't like to roll out of bed and come in to basically acknowledge an alarm that there's nothing they can do about. They like this technology, and they agree that a small stipend for the additional technical skills are in order, but there hasn't been a single complaint about, you know, losing overtime that isn't otherwise guaranteed.
Joe, I had a question for you. When Ryan last month talked about this program, he wanted it to run from like October 1st.
We still do. We still like to do it as a trial basis, see how it works.
Okay, so I'm not going to take back the motion we just put on the floor, but I could make, after we approve this one that we could just approve it from November 1st to June 1st, and then after the trial run,
We'll review it.
if there's any review of anything, like if the operators feel like they're missing something, or if staff identifies any issues, just so there's some follow-up on it.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, you want to have anything else on this?
I guess just a point of clarification for me. I pursued the way the motion's made though. Would the on-call pay necessarily revert?
Revert.
Like the trial period ends what when again?
I guess it depends on the wording of the motion, whether you're,
Because the motion was just to approve the on-call pay.
Yeah, I was going to make a separate motion to run it from November to.
or I guess then you could just assume that it'd work and then just have someone come back to change it, or, you know, to bring, then, I mean, I guess it could be the sunset, or someone, you know, have them come back in a however long period of time and tell you how it's going and
Require a report back?
recommend a different policy if at that time. However you want to do it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. On this, I would like to put in a timeline for a trial period, so we do review this to see how it's working. So I would make a motion that the on-call on-call rate for waste operators is reviewed on June 1st of next year, so we can look at the program and see exactly how it's doing.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion?
I just had one question to follow up. How many salaried people are able to operate the system?
Salary, there's one salary.
Just
person in
Ryan's
the
the only
plan,
one?
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. All right. Item number 3 was discussion around health and dental claims. The experience and benefits philosophy. Dental contribution rates will not change for January 1st of 2019. Health insurance contribution rates will default to 10% for 2019. Previously, the wellness plan was modified, eliminating the 5% incentive. No action requested. Dawn?
So I just wanted to bring this to this committee as a discussion. We had initially indicated, I believe back in June, that we were keeping a close tab on dental. So that is, our loss ratio is running a little bit over 100%, probably about 102, 103%, which isn't horrible. In dollars, it means generally we're probably behind $6,000 to $7,000 each month. It's not a lot of money, being that we have modified the wellness program, and that means that the health insurance contribution is going to 90% instead of 95%. We felt that it was probably a good thing if we did not have to revise the dental rates for January 1. So we're holding the dental rates because the default percentage on the health insurance will be at 90%. And just a reminder, I have this executive summary in your packets, and I have that elimination of the health risk and the fit assessment highlighted, so everyone could kind of refer to that happened this past summer. So I don't think there's any questions on it, but I wanted to make this committee aware.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions on the health or dental before we move on?
I have a question, is why is the city, seems like they're eliminating any, incentive for healthy choices in lifestyle.
So
And we built this,
yeah.
Preventative program
for so long, and now it's like just getting.
So I'm going to speak, I guess, clearly to sustainability. The program, the cost of that is $90,000. The revised cost of that is $62,000. Tim is working on the budget and is struggling very much to find $62,000. It really equates down to money in dollars. And if you really look at wellness as a whole, there's a lot of philosophies out there. Wellness is an individual choice. There's the feel-good things, and then there's the biometrics, the health risk assessments that go with it. If you really study wellness and the different beliefs out there, generally a person is going to be as healthy as he or she wants to, and as healthy as he or she puts time into. Not saying that health risk assessments may not catch something for someone at some certain point. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but it really came down to constraints on our budget. And it was a good program, it is a good program. I would never say it was not a good program, but it really comes down to dollars.
Mr. Chair, one thing I may add too, our switch to Aspirus Arise affords us the opportunity to utilize they've got some health risk assessment like components built into the plan, and the idea was, component of the idea was there was almost a duplication with Ascension's services with what Aspirus Arise could offer, and so I would offer that this is a short period where we may reboot what was offered previously with Aspirus Arise and some of their occupational health opportunities, and we haven't fully seen what that suite looks like, but we're told that there are a couple of components within the Arise contract that affords us access to HRA. Not to mention, we're also paying for preventative visits to the doctor, and I think once we get fully into a year of this new program, there may be an opportunity to relook at where the utilization is. And I think the reality was we didn't experience any positive say this cautiously because I think it's hard to tell in the numbers necessarily, any real incentive from a group health plan perspective by having our wellness program. So I think that, this is I would say almost a temporary stay that we're going to look at maybe what the wellness opportunities might be within the new plan as we get through 6 months or a year into the new plan.
Anything else, guys? Move on to item number 4, review and consider approval of the revised unpaid leave policy for clarification purposes.
Okay, so this is the last item in the HR packet, and I have the proposed revised policy first. And basically, I have taken out a couple of things. I want to point out, this is for really clarification. We also have a leave of absence policy, and these two policies are getting confused. Leave of absence was passed with the sick and paid leave. That speaks to leaves that are tied or somehow connected to medical or FMLA. Unpaid leave is not in any way connected to any type of family leave or military leave. It is truly employees requesting unpaid leave. So that's the point of clarification. The second document specifically looks at what has been redlined. So basically, the first point, I took out a sentence that said, unless specifically provided in particular policy, all leaves of absence are available on an unpaid basis only. That was just redundant and duplicate language, so I have removed that. There's another point in here, participation in the insurance groups will be permitted if the employee pays the full cost of such participation. I've removed that, revised that. Quite honestly, the period is only up to 30 days. It really doesn't make sense to remove employees, have them let COBRA for maybe possibly 1 month and put them back on a policy. So, and that's really to the employee's advantage. But as administratively, I just didn't think it made sense. So the other thing I've removed, that last paragraph, when an employee is placed on leave, efforts will be made to hold his or her position. There may be situations when positions cannot be held due to business necessity. The city cannot guarantee reinstatement after a leave of absence. I don't think that that's correct. I think that as a department head and an HR director, if I and a department head are going to approve an unpaid leave, it's our responsibility, right? Because then we can approve 10 days or 15 days or up to that 30 days. But, if the city's going to approve that, I feel that we should be responsible enough. So those are the changes I made. The other change I made is in section 3.1. There were no qualifiers. In other words, there were no criteria attached whatsoever. So I simply added criteria that could be reasonable. Someone wishes to take a sabbatical, or maybe they wish to perform missionary work or go work for Habitat for Humanity for a month. An employee has a need to plant or harvest crops, or heaven forbid, someone has an emergency, a house fire, a basement flooding. These are all emergency situations that perhaps would come up, and I think that we would absolutely allow some type of paid leave for that, or unpaid leave. So those are the basic changes in this policy. We don't have any other changes to it.
All right. I would make a motion to accept the revised unpaid leave policy for the changes that have been made by the HR director.
I'll take it. I'll second.
Is there any discussion on this?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I guess my only question is, who determines whether it be 10, 15, 20 days? And then my only concern is that it's applied consistently, because it's really subjective right now. It's just up to the department head and HR director.
It is, and I think it's really a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
If someone wants to go work and they want to go to Africa, I think that's different than my basement flooded and I need 10 days to peel back everything, get it dry, but I hear what you're saying, as fairly and consistently as possible.
And that's all I'm asking.
And I agree with that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion? Joe?
Is there any I guess what if the department head and HR director deny it? Is there any, I guess, not appeal process, but any?
Any recourse?
Right.
You know, I'm not aware that this policy has ever been denied. And I would say, I can't think of a situation where I would deny it, because there is criteria in here.
Go ahead, Shane.
Who supersedes? So if the department head would deny it and they came to the HR director, could you approve it and then that would be okay?
Well,
Or is it-
I could, but.
I didn't know if there was one trumped another or.
Well, generally it's the HR director, and I think I would, look for direction then from the rest of the administrative team as well.
I know we have a motion on the floor, but I guess as long as we're in discussion phase of this, should we look for an appeal process for an employee if there is ever a case where leave's denied?
I guess I would just recommend letting them probably come to this committee.
I can modify or add that in if we feel that that's something we want to do.
I know it would be probably rare and never happen, but I mean, it's just.
The only comment I would have is it might be reasonable to actually create an appeal policy. That if it's not just for this particular item, it might be an appeal against another policy item. If you're gonna, I don't know if that opens Pandora's box or not, but that might be able to be
Probably
applied
because
consistently.
then you have everyone appealing every policy, and then why have
Sure.
policies?
Sure.
But I'm not opposed to amending this to include some language for the HR committee to review it, if that's what we want.
I guess, because these are only leaves that are 30 days or less, and I guess I just think these are really department head administrative things, and they're probably things that are more than likely time sensitive sometimes. I guess I would caution against having an appeal process for leaves of 2 days or 3 days or 7 days. I think it's really a case-by-case basis. It's who the employee is, it's the department, it's their job, it's really highly kind of discretionary. And I think if both the HR director and the department head are saying that we just can't allow this at this time, or they've asked for 30 but we're giving 20, I guess it seems to me that the 30 days and under should be more of an administration thing, but that's just my recommendation. It's not based on any legal reasoning or anything like that.
Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, and I guess I agree with her, because I think we could be appealing something for 2 days, where I agree that department heads and HR director should have some latitude. And if, for some reason, if we get a lot of feedback, not that this ever happens, but if there's also a lot of feedback that things are being just applied inconsistently, then the committee can always change the policy or address it themselves. But I agree that I think it's hard to, an employee may be unhappy with being denied a 2-day leave, but it may make sense for whatever reason at the department head and HR level, and I think appeal process wouldn't make sense at that point. I agree, some latitude with department head and HR. And if it's a problem, we can address it down the road. We can look at the policy.
Any other discussion? Yeah.
Given the unique nature of public safety, fire and police specifically, our job requires a little different, and our schedules are drastically different than any departments within the city sometimes. We adopted language in previous negotiations for leave that the city produced and we agreed upon. Is it ever this committee's or your, as elected officials, is it ever your intention to propose this policy as it reads to police and fire?
I guess that would be in negotiations.
Yeah, correct.
thing.
But would you guys ever think that this policy would be?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what your policy
Talk
is.
about it.
We have a policy that was developed by the city and proposed to us to change for our sick leave. Right now, we have a 3-month period, and then we'll visit with the Human Resource Committee, I believe the language says, for approval of an additional 3 months, but it is a paid leave.
But that's
So-
sick leave, this is non-medical leave.
This
they're
is like
talking
an
about.
unpaid.
Yeah, we don't have an unpaid leave like that. There's other things, stipulations in our contract in which we could ask for immediately, but
This would,
I think this would
apply,
affect
wouldn't it?
this. You know, because we're talking 8 weeks here compared to,
Yeah, this isn't just sick leave.
Yeah,
or-
this is not.
This is unpaid leave.
but the sick leave
Above and beyond.
it could be proposed to us. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's negotiations.
I know, that's why I'm opening this discussion up, because this is a policy thing that
But this
that I
policy
think that the
is
intention is to unilaterally apply to all departments.
Well, this is an unpaid leave policy.
I'm talking about both policies, sick
Well,
and
we're-
paid.
Okay. If you want to talk about negotiations.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking
You're
if it's
asking
their
if this is-
intentions to unilaterally put this on all departments. I'm not asking about negotiation.
Are you asking about this policy at this time and who it applies to? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm aware of who it applies to.
Okay.
I'm just asking if it's the committee's intentions to apply this to all departments unilaterally in the future.
It's my understanding that, like, when we looked at the sick leave and we reduced it to
Yep.
8 weeks, that at that time, when that passed, that applied to all departments unilaterally across the board, to include police and fire. Now, what police and fire have that the other city employees don't have is police and fire have the ability to bring that sick leave policy back up in negotiations. Police and fire can ask for additional sick leave time through the negotiation process. That's something that the street department doesn't have. So this, to my understanding, if this unpaid leave policy has presented, passes council, this would unilaterally apply to every department within the city, to include police and fire. But you guys are in the unique position that if there's something in this policy that you don't like, you guys have the ability to negotiate that through the bargaining process. Is that kind of what
Yeah,
you're...
given your unique,
No, that's not correct.
No, it's not correct?
No, they have specific language regarding their sick leave, which is the leave that the non-union had up until you changed it. So we can't, their sick leave is, we're going to have to negotiate that with them and will, just as we.
and that's kind of what I'm getting to.
Right, but this unpaid leave, if you're saying you have no unpaid leave.
I'm not talking
how-
about unpaid leave, I'm just talking about
Okay, this is what's on the agenda, and this is what we're talking about now.
Okay,
I guess
I'll refrain.
So I mean, anything that isn't addressed in whatever association's contract and doesn't conflict with anything in that contract would apply, correct?
Well, I guess I don't have their contract in front of them and to see the language on all of their leaves. So I'm not sure if they have something in conflict with this, if this would be an additional benefit for them that we want to give them, or they accept as
It would have
as a
to,
policy.
okay, it would have to say that in their contract, basically.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I would say leaves of absence. I mean, I guess I'm surprised that you have absolutely no language regarding unpaid leave in your contract.
Yeah, we
There
would,
is some,
yeah.
Okay.
And there's certain stipulations in there, and some of them
Okay.
are like educational purposes or whatever.
Okay, so then that's their unpaid leave, and if we want to change that, then we would negotiate that with them.
Okay. So anything in here is subject to bargaining?
Well, some of this is regarding maybe the administration of it, which arguably, I don't know, not having their policy in front of them, I can't comment on what it says or what if anything of this might apply to them. But we're gonna start bargaining, as you know, next week, so I'm sure this is something that we can talk about and make sure that we're all on the same page with.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
I want to apologize for being late. I thought we were going to meet at 7:30. Didn't we say that last time?
No.
Oh,
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry. I want to apologize.
It's all right.
It does change quite often, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thought we said 8:30, then, oh, let's go 7:30. I put down 7:30 on my calendar, so.
It's okay.
Flip on those facts.
All right, item number 6, the committee may vote to go into closed session pursuant to section 19, oh, I'm sorry, next meeting date. I think, back up one here, next meeting date we agreed for Friday, November 9th at 1 PM. Scott?
Yeah.
All right. So our next meeting date will be Friday, November 9th at 1 PM. All right, now we'll get to item 6. The committee may vote to go into closed section pursuant to section 19.85, para 1, para C of the Wisconsin statutes, which reads, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. In committee or in closed session, the committee will review the referral from Alderperson Graff. With that, I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Just as a quick discussion, if that's okay, just want to make a comment. As you consider this, I would ask that the committee, when reviewing situations like this, if you can consider the legislative impacts, instead of taking issues on as individual. And Scott, we had a brief discussion about it. I'm sure you can follow up in closed session, but we do have a number of employees who have really stepped up in the absence of with employee losses, and without a policy, they're not currently being recognized. And I would ask that consideration be given for developing a policy, perhaps rather than reviewing individuals. So thank you.
All right, we will go into closed session at this time.